I'd translated 17 languages in my 4 years working for Aryan Shah, but English remained the most dangerous. Not because of grammar or vocabulary. English was simple compared to the tonal complexities of Mandarin or the grammatical mazes of Russian. No, English was dangerous because it was the language I forgot to filter myself in. The restaurant's private room smelled of saffron and cardamom, expensive wine and testosterone. I sat at the far end of the mahogany table, my laptop open, my fingers hovering over keys I hadn't touched in 20 minutes. The business discussion had devolved into the kind of casual conversation that didn't require my professional services. But Aryan hadn't dismissed me yet, so I remained. 5 men in tailored suits discussing territories and percentages like they were planning a corporate merger instead of dividing up smuggling routes. I'd learned not to flinch at the casual mentions of violence, the coded language that meant things I preferred not to imagine in detail. My role was simple: translate when needed, stay invisible otherwise. 4 years of practice had made me excellent at both. Prisha. Aryan's voice cut through the ambient noise, smooth and controlled as always. You're very quiet tonight. I glanced up from my screen, meeting those dark eyes that seemed to catalog everything. He sat at the head of the table in a black shirt with the top 4 buttons undone, revealing the defined muscles of his chest. His expensive watch caught the candlelight as he lifted his wine glass. I'm working, Mr. Shah. I kept my voice professionally neutral. Just reviewing the contract translations for accuracy. The contracts are finalized. He leaned back in his chair, that penetrating gaze never wavering. You've been staring at the same document for 15 minutes without typing a single word. Vihan Patel, seated to Aryan's right, laughed. Maybe she's bored with our company. Can't blame her. We're discussing shipping manifests. Or maybe she's plotting our downfall, Rohan Mehta suggested from across the table, his tone playful but his eyes sharp. Translators hear everything. Then I'd be the world's worst spy. I closed my laptop with more force than necessary. I can barely remember what I had for breakfast, let alone cargo details from 3 hours ago. The table erupted in laughter. Even Aryan's mouth curved slightly, though his expression remained mostly unreadable. This was the danger zone. The moment when professional distance blurred into something resembling camaraderie. When I forgot that these weren't colleagues at a normal business dinner, but men who controlled half the city's underground economy. You're too modest, Kavya Sharma said from her position near Rohan. She was one of the few women in Aryan's organization, handling logistics with ruthless efficiency. Aryan only keeps the best around him. I keep people who are useful, Aryan corrected, his gaze still fixed on me, and who know when to speak and when to stay silent. The implicit criticism stung, even though I knew he was right. I had been unusually quiet tonight, but not because of the contracts. Truth was, I'd been distracted by the text message I'd received an hour ago. A date invitation from Dev, the IT consultant who'd been installing new security systems at Aryan's office building. Nice guy, normal job, no ties to criminal enterprises. Exactly the kind of person I should be interested in. Except every time I tried to imagine dinner with Dev, my mind wandered back to this table, to the man at the head of it, who never quite looked away from me, even when he was conducting business worth millions. Earth to Prisha. Vihan waved his hand in front of my face, making me jerk back to awareness. See? Definitely plotting something. Just tired. I manufactured a smile. Long week. It's Tuesday, Rohan pointed out, which makes it a very long week. More laughter. I was good at this. The self-deprecating humor that deflected attention while maintaining enough presence to stay part of the conversation. A balancing act I'd perfected over years of being the only woman in rooms full of powerful men. We should let her go, Kavya suggested. The contracts are done. No reason to keep her here while we drink ourselves into bad decisions. Aryan didn't respond immediately. He simply studied me with that unsettling intensity that made my pulse jump in ways I absolutely couldn't afford to acknowledge. "One more hour," he said finally. "I may need verification on the Chinese subsidiary terms." Translation: he wanted me to stay. The contracts were perfect. I'd triple-checked them myself. This was about something else entirely. Vihan signaled the waiter for another bottle of wine. The conversation shifted to sports, then to gossip about mutual acquaintances, the kind of casual talk that made me feel simultaneously included and completely out of place. I checked my phone discreetly under the table. Dev had sent another message asking if I'd thought about Friday dinner. Sweet, persistent, safe. Everything Aryan Shah was not. Question. Rohan leaned forward, his eyes bright with wine and mischief. Completely inappropriate for a business dinner, but we're past that point now. "Oh God," Kavya groaned. "Here we go. When did everyone here lose their virginity?" The table exploded into protests and laughter. I felt my face heat immediately, my fingers tightening around my phone. "That's," Vihan started. "Completely inappropriate," Kavya finished, which is exactly why he asked. "I'm genuinely curious about the statistics." Rohan held up his hands in mock innocence. "Is there a correlation between losing your virginity young and ending up in our line of work?" "That's not how statistics work," I muttered, before I could stop myself. Aryan's gaze snapped to me. "You have thoughts on this?" "I have thoughts on not discussing this at a business dinner." I met his eyes steadily, refusing to look away first. Also, correlation doesn't imply causation. Basic research methodology. "She's right," Vihan agreed. "This is wildly inappropriate." "Which is why we should absolutely do it," Rohan countered. "Come on, no judgment. I'll start. 17, backseat of my father's car, absolutely terrible experience that I've spent years making up for. 18, Vihan offered after a moment. College girlfriend, also terrible, but at least it was in a bed. The conversation continued around the table, each person either participating or laughingly refusing to answer. I focused very hard on my laptop screen, willing myself to disappear into the mahogany furniture. Then Aryan spoke, his voice cutting through the noise. "Are you a virgin, Prisha?" The table went completely silent. I looked up slowly, meeting his gaze across the length of polished wood. His expression was unreadable, but there was something in his eyes. A challenge, maybe, or a test. This was the moment where I should have deflected, made a joke, changed the subject with the practiced ease I'd developed over 4 years of working in this world. Instead, my mouth opened, and words came out before my brain could stop them. Not after tonight. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Vihan started laughing, a nervous sound that broke the tension slightly. Kavya covered her face with her hands. Rohan looked like he couldn't decide whether to be impressed or horrified. But Aryan's expression, that was what made my stomach drop. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. His fingers tensed around his wine glass. And his eyes, which had been amused moments before, went absolutely cold. Not angry. Something worse. Something I couldn't name but could feel in every nerve ending. "That's..." I started, my face burning. "I meant, it's Tuesday, so by statistical probability..." "I didn't mean..." "Prisha makes an excellent point," Rohan interjected, clearly trying to salvage the situation. "Tuesdays are traditionally excellent for everyone out." Aryan's voice was quiet, but carried absolute authority. "Except Prisha." Kavya stood immediately, gathering her things with practiced efficiency. Vihan and Rohan exchanged glances but didn't argue. Within 90 seconds, the private room had cleared completely, leaving just me and the man at the head of the table. I closed my laptop again, my hands trembling slightly. I apologize. That was completely inappropriate and unprofessional. I don't know what I was thinking." "You weren't thinking." He set down his wine glass with careful precision. "You never do. It's one of the things I find most infuriating about you." The honesty of that statement hit me like cold water. "I can leave. Clearly I've overstepped. Sit." I sat. Arian rose from his chair with that predatory grace that always reminded me exactly who I was dealing with. He moved around the table slowly, each step measured and deliberate, until he stood directly beside my seat. "Look at me." I lifted my gaze, my pulse hammering against my ribs. This close, I could smell his cologne, sandalwood and something darker, more expensive. Could see the slight stubble along his jaw, the muscle ticking there that suggested his control was costing him effort. "When you made that comment," he said quietly, "every man in this room looked at you differently. I noticed." My voice came out smaller than I intended. "It was a stupid joke." "It wasn't a joke." His hand came up, fingers catching my chin and tilting my face up. "Or if it was, you're a better actress than I gave you credit for." The touch sent electricity through my system. We'd worked together for 4 years. He'd never touched me before. Never crossed that invisible line between employer and employee. Until now. "Are you really planning to sleep with someone tonight?" His voice dropped lower, more dangerous. "Answer honestly." My mind raced. "Dev asked me to dinner. The IT guy. I haven't answered yet." "Dev." He repeated the name like it tasted bitter. "The consultant who's been finding excuses to visit your office all week." "You notice that?" "I notice everything about you." The admission seemed to cost him something. "Every conversation you have, every text message that makes you smile, every time you look at a man who isn't me." My breath caught. "Arian." "Mr. Shaw," he corrected sharply. "In this room, that's who I am." But his thumb was stroking along my jawline, a gesture that contradicted every word. His eyes were fixed on my mouth with an intensity that made thinking impossible. "I should fire you," he continued, "for that comment alone, for making every man in my organization wonder if you're available. I am available." The words escaped before I could stop them. "I've been available for 4 years. You just never asked." His expression shattered for just a moment, revealing something raw and furious beneath the control. Then he released me abruptly, stepping back. "You don't understand what you're saying." "I understand perfectly." I stood, surprising myself with my own boldness. "I understand that you keep me close but never close enough. That you notice everything but do nothing. That you... Enough." He turned away, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. "This conversation is over." "Fine." I grabbed my laptop and bag. "Then I'll go meet Dev for that drink he suggested. Maybe make good on my stupid Tuesday prediction." I made it 3 steps toward the door before his voice stopped me cold. "If you walk out that door planning to be with another man, don't bother coming back tomorrow." I turned slowly. "Are you seriously threatening to fire me over my personal life?" "No." He faced me fully, and the expression on his face made my knees weak. "I'm telling you that I've spent 4 years maintaining professional boundaries. 4 years ignoring the way you laugh at terrible jokes. 4 years pretending I don't want to know what you taste like. 4 years." He stopped himself. "If you leave here for him, I won't be able to maintain those boundaries anymore. And that's dangerous for both of us." The air between us felt charged with possibilities I'd never allowed myself to consider. "So what do you want me to do?" My voice came out breathless. "Tell him no." Arian moved closer again, crowding into my space. "Tell every man who looks at you like you're available that you're not. Because you haven't been available for a very long time, Prisha. You've just been too smart to acknowledge it." "And if I do?" I challenged. If I tell Dev no, what changes? Everything. His hand came up to cut my face again, thumb tracing my lower lip. And nothing, because I still can't offer you normal, can't give you safe. All I can give you is this. This thing I've been fighting that makes me want to eliminate every man who makes you smile. That's not healthy, I managed. I'm aware. His mouth curved slightly. But you asked what I wanted. That's my answer. You, not with anyone else. Ever. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Probably Dev, wondering about my silence. Arian's eyes flicked to the sound. Decision time. I pulled out my phone, typed a quick message declining the dinner invitation, and showed Arian the screen before hitting send. The tension in his shoulders eased fractionally. This is insane, I said. We work together. You're my boss. This violates every... He kissed me. Not gently. Not the way first kisses in movies looked. This was 4 years of tension compressed into a single moment, his mouth claiming mine with an authority that made my knees buckle. I dropped my laptop bag, grabbed his shirt for balance, kissed him back with equal desperation. When he finally pulled away, we were both breathing hard. Tomorrow, he said against my mouth. We figure out logistics. Tonight, you're coming home with me, and I'm making absolutely certain that your Tuesday prediction comes true. That's not what I meant. I know exactly what you meant. His smile was dark and possessive. But I'm choosing to interpret it my way. Looking into his eyes, seeing the want and the danger and the promise there, I realized I'd stopped being safe the moment I made that stupid joke. Maybe even 4 years ago, the first day I walked into his office. Either way, there was no going back now. I woke up in sheets that cost more than my monthly rent, in a penthouse I'd only seen from the outside, next to a man who controlled half the city's shadows. Sunlight filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows, painting Arian's bedroom in gold. He was already awake, propped on one elbow, watching me with that unnerving intensity I should have been used to by now, but somehow wasn't. You're staring, I mumbled, pulling the silk sheet higher. You talk in your sleep. He traced a finger along my bare shoulder. Something about quarterly reports and tandoori chicken. Sounds accurate. I sat up carefully, hyper-aware of my nakedness and his proximity. What time is it? 6:30. We have a meeting at 8. The reality of what we'd done crashed over me like cold water. Oh God, work. Everyone's going to know. They already know. He said it calmly, like he was discussing weather. Vihan texted me 3 times last night asking if I'd lost my mind. And have you? His smile was slight but genuine. Completely. I should have panicked. Should have grabbed my clothes from wherever they'd ended up scattered across his bedroom floor and run. Instead, I found myself studying him in the morning light. The sharp angles of his face, the surprising vulnerability in his eyes when he thought I wasn't looking closely enough. I need coffee, I said finally. And clothes. And possibly a plan for how we're going to handle the fact that I slept with my boss. Former boss. He stood, completely unself-conscious in his nakedness, and grabbed a robe from a chair. As of this morning, you're transferring to independent contractor status. Same pay, same work, different reporting structure. You can't just... I started. I already did. He tossed me a second robe. Email went out at 5 this morning. You now report directly to Kavya for administrative purposes. I'm no longer technically your supervisor. I stared at him. You planned this. The moment you sent that text to Dev. He moved to the door. Coffee's in the kitchen. Your clothes are in the guest room. I had them cleaned. And Prisha. Yeah? No regrets. Not from me. Don't create them where they don't exist. He left before I could respond. I sat in his expensive sheets, in his expensive bedroom, processing the fact that Aryan Shah had apparently reorganized my entire employment structure overnight to avoid a workplace relationship scandal. The coffee was perfect. My clothes were indeed clean and pressed. And when I emerged from the guest room 15 minutes later, fully dressed and marginally more composed, Aryan was sitting at his kitchen counter in dark slacks and a white dress shirt, scrolling through his phone. "There's breakfast." He gestured to covered dishes. "And we need to talk about protocols." Protocols. I helped myself to coffee, needing the caffeine more than food. "For what, exactly?" "For this." He set down his phone, giving me his complete attention. "I don't do relationships, Prisha. I don't have the temperament or the lifestyle for it. But I also can't go back to pretending I don't want you." "So what are you proposing? An arrangement?" He was using his business voice now, the one that brokered deals worth millions. "You continue your work. We continue whatever this is. But there are rules." "Of course there are." I sat across from him, cradling my coffee cup. "Let me guess. Discretion, no emotions, and you maintain complete control?" "Actually, no." He surprised me. "The rules are for me, not you." That made me pause. "Explain." "I'm possessive." He said it flatly, like admitting a character flaw. Irrationally so when it comes to you. Last night proved that. So the rules are, I don't control your life, I don't isolate you from friends or family, and I actively work against my instinct to eliminate any man who looks at you. That's surprisingly self-aware. I know what I am. His gaze was steady. I know the darkness I'm capable of, but I also know I want you enough to fight my own worst impulses. The question is whether you're willing to let me try. I should have said no. Should have recognized this for the red flag parade it was. But I'd spent 4 years watching Aryan Shah navigate impossible situations with calculated precision. If he was willing to establish boundaries against his own possessiveness, that meant something. "What about your world?" I asked. "The business? The danger? That doesn't just disappear because we're sleeping together." "No," he agreed. "Which is why you're getting a security detail." "Absolutely not. Non-negotiable." His voice hardened. "You're connected to me now. That makes you a target. Either accept protection, or this ends before it begins." "You're being paranoid." "I'm being realistic." He stood, moving around the counter to stand before me. "I have enemies, Prisha. People who would love nothing more than to hurt me through someone I care about. I won't give them that opportunity." "Someone you care about." I repeated the phrase carefully. "Is that what I am?" "You're someone I spent 4 years trying not to care about." His hand came up to cup my face. "Who made a stupid joke last night that made me realize I'd failed completely? So yes, you're someone I care about. Which means you're someone I protect." My phone buzzed. I pulled it out to find a text from Kavya. "Emergency meeting moved to 9 a.m. Also, you better be alive, because Aryan was terrifying last night after you left together." I showed Aryan the message. "She thinks you murdered me. I'll clarify at the meeting." He checked his watch. "We should leave separately. You take the car, I'll follow in 20 minutes. Already thinking about appearances. Always. But he kissed me before I could protest. A claiming kiss that made my knees weak. Tonight, we continue this conversation. For now, we maintain professional distance at work." "That's going to last maybe 10 minutes, I predicted. His smile was dark. "I give it 5. The office was exactly as chaotic as I expected. Vihan spotted me first, his eyes going wide. "You're alive. Why does everyone assume I'm dead?" I set my bag down at my desk, which was separate from Aryan's office, but close enough for convenience. Because Aryan looked murderous last night. Rohan appeared from the conference room. "And possessive," extremely possessive. What happened after we left? That's private. So, something definitely happened. Kavya emerged from her office, her expression calculating. You're wearing the same clothes from yesterday, but they've been cleaned, meaning you stayed somewhere with access to professional laundering service. Arian's building has that in the penthouse. You're terrifying, I told her. I'm observant. She smiled. Also, congratulations. I've been waiting 4 years for him to admit he's obsessed with you. He's not obsessed. Prisha. She cut me off gently. He reorganized your entire employment structure overnight. He's been tracking your location since you started working here, and he nearly started a war with the Volkov family last year when one of their representatives got too friendly with you at that conference. I stared at her. That was about me? You really are oblivious. Rohan shook his head. It's almost adorable. What's adorable? Arian's voice came from behind me. I turned to find him entering the office, looking every inch the controlled businessman. But his eyes went to me immediately, a quick scan that checked for. What? Injury? Regret? Nothing, I said quickly. Just office gossip. About last night. Vihan had apparently decided to be brave. Want to clarify what happened? Because the speculation is getting creative. Prisha and I are involved. Arian said it simply, without elaboration. That's all anyone needs to know. It doesn't affect business operations or her work quality. Any questions? Silence. Good. He moved toward his office. Prisha, I need those Chinese contract translations verified. My office? 10 minutes. He disappeared inside, leaving me with 3 faces that were trying very hard not to laugh. Professional distance, Kavya quoted. Sure. Shut up, I muttered, but I was smiling. The morning passed in a blur of actual work. The Chinese contracts did need verification. There was a discrepancy in the shipping timeline that could have cost millions if left uncorrected. I caught it, fixed it, and presented the corrections to Arian while he was on a conference call. He mouthed thank you and gestured for me to stay. I shouldn't have. I had my own work at my own desk. But I found myself settling into the chair across from his, half listening to his conversation while reviewing other documents on my tablet. This was dangerous territory. The kind of comfortable intimacy that developed between people who worked well together and wanted each other constantly. When he finished the call, Arian leaned back in his chair, studying me. What? I asked. You're different today. I slept with my boss last night. That tends to change things. Former boss, he corrected. And I don't mean that. You're more relaxed. Should I be tense? Most people are around me. He said it matter-of-factly. You never have been. It's one of the reasons He stopped himself. One of the reasons you what? Notice you. He finished carefully. You treat me like I'm human, not a threat. You are human. I set down my tablet. A possessive, controlling human with boundary issues and a tendency toward violence, but still human. That should bother you more than it does. Probably. I met his gaze steadily. But I've spent 4 years watching you navigate this world. You're ruthless, but you're not cruel. You're dangerous, but you're not reckless. And you just established rules to protect me from your own worst instincts. That counts for something. He moved around his desk with that predatory grace, pulling me up from the chair and into his arms. We're at work. You noticed. I'm about to stop caring. His mouth found mine, the kiss deeper than it should be in an office with glass walls. Someone cleared their throat loudly. We broke apart to find Vihan standing in the doorway, looking amused and exasperated. The meta situation requires your attention, unless you're too busy. I'm never too busy for business. Arian released me reluctantly. Prisha, we'll continue this later. I returned to my desk with my face burning and my pulse racing, aware of every eye in the office tracking my movement. This was my life now, connected to a man who controlled shadows, maintained empires, and apparently couldn't keep his hands off me even during business hours. I should have been terrified. Instead, I found myself smiling. 3 months into working for Aryan Shah, I'd made my first critical mistake. I'd assumed he was like every other powerful man I'd encountered in my translation career. Demanding, dismissive, interested only in my skills, and never in me as a person. That assumption shattered on a Tuesday afternoon when I collapsed at my desk from exhaustion and dehydration, and Aryan personally carried me to his car to drive me to the hospital. The memory surfaced now as I sat in his penthouse Saturday evening, watching him cook dinner with surprising competence. We'd spent the week navigating our new arrangement, learning the boundaries between professional and personal, discovering that separating the two was nearly impossible. "You're thinking too loud," Aryan observed, stirring something that smelled incredible. "What's wrong?" "Just remembering." I took a sip of wine. "That first time you showed you were human." His hand stilled briefly. "The hospital incident. You carried me 3 blocks because the car couldn't get closer." I smiled at the memory. "Ruined a $5,000 suit because I was bleeding from hitting my head on the desk." The suit was replaceable. He turned to face me fully. "You weren't. I barely knew you then." "I knew you." He said it with that certainty that characterized everything about him. "I knew you worked too hard, knew you wouldn't ask for help, knew you'd rather collapse than admit weakness." "Sounds familiar." I raised an eyebrow. "Pot, meet kettle." His smile was brief. "We're similar that way, both too stubborn for our own good." I watched him return to cooking. This powerful man who controlled criminal enterprises with one hand and made perfect curry with the other. The contradiction should have been jarring. Instead, it felt inevitable. "When did you know?" I asked. "That you wanted this? Define this. Me, us, whatever we're calling it." He was quiet for a long moment, his attention seemingly focused on the food. Then, 6 months in, you were translating a contract with the Volkov family. Mikhail's son made a crude comment in Russian, assuming you didn't understand. You translated it perfectly, then added your own response that questioned his intelligence and his manhood. I remembered. He turned purple. He also never disrespected you again. Aryan plated the food with precision. That was the moment I realized you weren't like anyone else in my world. You had spine, intelligence, and absolutely no sense of self-preservation when it came to standing up for yourself. That last part bothers you. Terrifies me, he corrected, carrying the plates to the table. Because the same quality that makes you perfect for me also makes you a target for my enemies. We ate in comfortable silence for a while. The food was excellent. Aryan had learned to cook from his grandmother. He'd mentioned once, before his life took its darker turn. "Tell me about her," I said. "Your grandmother. Why?" "Because you learned to make this from her. Because it's the only time I've seen you genuinely soft when you mention family. Because I want to know you beyond the empire you built." He studied me across the table. "She raised me after my parents died, taught me Hindi, made me memorize prayers I didn't believe in, insisted I could be more than my circumstances suggested. She'd be proud of you. She'd be horrified." His laugh was bitter. She wanted me to be a doctor or engineer, something respectable. Instead, I became exactly what she feared. "You became a survivor," I countered. "You built something from nothing. That takes strength. It takes ruthlessness. It takes both." I reached across the table, taking his hand. "You're not one-dimensional, Aryan. You're allowed to be complicated." His fingers tightened on mine. "You see things in me that aren't there. I see things you won't acknowledge." I stood, moving around the table to stand beside him. You're not just the dangerous man who controls half the city. You're also the man who reorganized my employment overnight to protect me, who established rules against your own instincts, who makes his grandmother's recipes and pretends he doesn't miss her. Prisha, I'm not afraid of your darkness, I interrupted. I've lived in it for 4 years. What I am afraid of is you using that darkness as an excuse to push me away when things get difficult. He pulled me into his lap, his arms wrapping around me with possessive certainty. I won't push you away. Promise? I've never been good at letting go of things I want. His mouth found the sensitive spot below my ear. And I want you beyond all rational thought. That's not healthy. I'm aware. He lifted me effortlessly, carrying me toward the bedroom. But you asked me not to push you away. That means you're stuck with my particular brand of obsession. Later, tangled in expensive sheets with his heartbeat steady beneath my ear, I found myself thinking about futures I'd never allowed myself to imagine. What happens when this isn't enough anymore? I asked the darkness. What do you mean? This arrangement, the rules, the careful boundaries. I propped myself up to look at him. Eventually, one of us is going to want more. What happens then? His expression was serious in the dim light. Then we renegotiate. That's simple. Nothing about us is simple. His hand came up to cup my face. But I'm willing to complicate my life further if it means keeping you. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have right now. He pulled me back down against his chest. Ask me again in 6 months. Maybe I'll have something better. I should have pressed, should have demanded clarity about where this was heading. But lying there in his arms, feeling safer than I had in years despite being connected to one of the most dangerous men in the city, I found I didn't want to ruin the moment with demands for certainty. Some things were worth the risk of uncertainty. Aryan Shah, apparently, was one of them. The Monday morning meeting started normally enough. Aryan presiding at the head of the conference table, his lieutenants arranged around him, me taking notes on contract negotiations that would have made lawyers nervous and accountants ill. Then Rohan dropped the bomb that changed everything. The Sharma family wants to meet. The room went silent. Even I, with my limited understanding of the deeper politics, knew that name. The Sharma family controlled territories that overlapped with Aryan's in profitable and problematic ways. When? Aryan's voice was carefully neutral. Tonight. Dinner at the Oberoi. They specifically requested you bring your companion. All eyes turned to me. Absolutely not, Aryan said immediately. They were insistent. Rohan pulled up an email on his tablet. Quote, We've heard Aryan Shah has finally found someone interesting enough to claim publicly. We're curious to meet the woman who accomplished what no one else could. It's a test, Kavya observed. They want to assess whether she's a weakness they can exploit, which is exactly why she's not going, Aryan replied. Actually, I set down my pen, everyone's attention shifting to me. Maybe I should. No. Hear me out. I stood, moving to where I could see everyone clearly. They already know about me. My presence or absence doesn't change that. But if I don't go, I look like something you're hiding. Something vulnerable. If I do go, I'm just there. Visible, but not significant enough to hide. Vihan nodded slowly. She has a point. She absolutely doesn't, Aryan countered. The Sharma family doesn't issue casual dinner invitations. This is a power play. Then let's play. I met his gaze steadily. I've been translating your business deals for 4 years. I can handle one dinner with rivals trying to intimidate me. They'll do more than try to intimidate you. Then you'll be there to stop them. I kept my voice calm, reasonable. You said you wouldn't control my life. This is part of that, letting me make my own decisions about risks. His jaw tightened. That was before I fully understood how many people would want to hurt you to get to me. Arian. I moved closer, aware of our audience but not caring. I'm not backing down from your world. That means occasionally walking into rooms with people who might want to use me against you. Either you trust me to handle it, or this arrangement falls apart before it really begins. The silence stretched. Finally, Arian turned to Rohan. Confirm our attendance. 7 p.m. and contact Marcus. I want our best security detail. Already done, Rohan replied. After the meeting cleared, Arian pulled me into his office. That was manipulative, he said without heat. That was logical, I corrected. You can't protect me from everything. Trying to will just make both of us crazy. I'm already crazy. He pulled me against him, his forehead resting against mine. Crazy about you. Crazy with worry about you. Just generally insane since that stupid dinner last week. Romantic. But I wrapped my arms around him. I'll be fine. I've handled worse than intimidating rivals. Name one time. The Volkov negotiation. Mikhail's entire family trying to corner me at that reception. That conference in Dubai where 3 different organizations tried to recruit me away from you. All situations where I was present and could intervene if necessary. And you'll be present tonight. I pulled back to look at him. Arian, I know you're scared, but you can't bubble wrap me. That's not living. That's just existing safely. His hands came up to frame my face. Promise me something. What? If anything feels wrong tonight, anything at all, you tell me immediately. Don't try to handle it yourself. Don't worry about appearing weak. You tell me, and we leave. I promise. He kissed me then, desperate and claiming. The kind of kiss that made me forget we were in his office with glass walls and curious employees. When he finally released me, his eyes were dark with want and worry in equal measure. Tonight, you stay within my sight, he said. That's non-negotiable. Possessive. Completely. He didn't even pretend to deny it. You're mine, Prisha. I don't share, and I don't risk what's mine. Your rules were supposed to prevent this kind of controlling behavior. My rules are the only thing keeping me from locking you in my penthouse and never letting you leave. His smile was sharp. Consider tonight my compromise. I should have been disturbed by that admission. Instead, I found it oddly comforting, the honesty of his possessiveness, the way he acknowledged it as a flaw, rather than pretending it was protection. Wear the green dress, he added. The one from last weekend. Planning my wardrobe now? Always. He released me reluctantly. Now go. I have calls to make and security arrangements to finalize. That evening, I stood in Arian's penthouse wearing the requested dress. Emerald silk that he'd bought for me after I'd mentioned liking the color. It fit perfectly. Elegant, without being provocative. Arian emerged from his bedroom in a black suit with his shirt unbuttoned, just enough to suggest controlled danger, rather than business formality. Ready? He asked. As I'll ever be for dinner with people who probably want me dead. That's not funny. Little bit funny. But I took his offered hand. Let's go prove I'm not a weakness they can exploit. The car ride to the Oberoi was silent. Arian's fingers laced through mine, his thumb stroking my palm in repetitive patterns that betrayed his anxiety. What do you know about the Sharma family? I asked. They're old money. Legitimate businesses on the surface. Profitable illegal operations underneath. Arav Sharma runs the family now after his father's retirement. He's smart, ruthless, and ambitious enough to want expansion into my territories. And they requested me specifically because they know that anyone important enough for me to publicly claim is someone they can use. His grip tightened slightly. They'll test you tonight. Try to find weaknesses, pressure points, ways to manipulate you against me. And if they succeed, they won't. He said it with absolute certainty. because you're too smart to fall for obvious manipulation, and because I'll be watching. The Oberoi was exactly the kind of restaurant I expected. Exclusive, expensive, filled with people who controlled more money and power than I could imagine. Arav Sharma was already seated when we arrived, flanked by his sister Mira and an older man I recognized as his uncle, Kunal. Aryan. Arav stood, extending his hand with practiced charm. "Thank you for coming." "Arav." Aryan shook briefly before turning to me. "This is Prisha Kumar, my translator and companion." The hesitation before companion was deliberate, I realized, establishing that I was important, but not defining exactly how. "Miss Kumar." Arav took my hand, his smile sharp. "I've heard fascinating things about you. All exaggerated, I'm sure." I returned the smile with equal sharpness. "I'm really quite boring." "Somehow I doubt that." Mira spoke for the first time, her gaze assessing. "Any woman who captures Aryan Shah's attention can't be boring. Captures makes it sound predatory." I sat in the chair Aryan held for me. "I prefer to think I was persistently competent, until he couldn't ignore me anymore." That earned genuine laughter from Kunal. "I like her already." "Of course you do," Aryan murmured, taking his seat beside me. His hand found my thigh under the table, a possessive touch hidden from view. "She's likable when she wants to be, and terrifying when she doesn't." The dinner proceeded with surface pleasantness, hiding deeper currents. I translated when necessary, participated in conversation when addressed, and watched Arav Sharma try to assess exactly how much power I held over Aryan. Then Mira made her move. "Tell me, Prisha." "May I call you Prisha?" "How does someone with your background end up working for a man like Aryan?" Translation: how did someone ordinary end up with someone powerful? "My background," I smiled. "You mean my degree in linguistics from Delhi University and my fluency in 17 languages? That background?" "I meant your circumstances before. Before I was exceptionally good at my job?" I kept my voice pleasant. "I don't understand the question." Aryan's hand tightened on my thigh, a warning. "Mira," Arav interjected smoothly, "is trying to understand how serious this relationship is. We're considering a business partnership with your organization, Aryan. Naturally, we want to know if Miss Kumar represents a long-term variable or a temporary distraction." "That's remarkably direct," I observed. "We prefer honesty in our business dealings." "Then honestly?" I met Arav's gaze. "I'm whatever Aryan and I decide I am. Your opinion on our relationship has exactly zero influence on that determination. As for your business partnership, I'm his translator, not his business partner. My presence at this dinner is courtesy, not negotiation." Silence fell across the table. Then Kunal laughed again, louder this time. "She's perfect for you, Aryan. Absolutely perfect." "I'm aware," Aryan replied, his hand sliding possessively higher on my thigh. "Was there actual business to discuss tonight? Or was this entire dinner just an excuse to evaluate Prisha?" "Can't it be both?" Arav's smile didn't reach his eyes. "But yes, we have a proposal regarding the port operations." The conversation shifted to actual business. I translated when needed, my mind working through the subtle implications of every word, while hyper-aware of Aryan's hand on my leg, the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes never stayed off me for more than a few seconds. This was what loving him meant, I realized, walking into rooms full of danger and pretending confidence I didn't entirely feel. Becoming a target simply by standing next to him, knowing that every word I spoke could have consequences beyond myself. And despite all that, I wouldn't have been anywhere else. 2 weeks after the Sharma dinner, I discovered I was pregnant. The timing was catastrophic. Aryan and I were still navigating the basics of our relationship, learning to coexist in professional and personal spaces, establishing boundaries that worked for both of us. figuring out if what we had could sustain beyond intense attraction and mutual obsession. A baby was nowhere in that equation. I stared at the positive test in Arian's penthouse bathroom, my hands shaking. We'd been careful, mostly. There had been that one night 3 weeks ago when careful had become impossible, when want had overwhelmed practical considerations. Apparently, once was enough. "Prisha," Arian's voice came from the bedroom. "You've been in there for 20 minutes. Everything okay?" I opened the door, the test still in my hand. His gaze dropped to it immediately. His expression went completely blank, the same mask he wore during dangerous negotiations. "How sure are you?" His voice was carefully controlled. 3 tests, all positive. I sat on the edge of the bed, my legs suddenly weak. "I'm sorry. I know this wasn't part of the arrangement." "Stop." He knelt in front of me, taking my face in his hands. "Don't apologize for something we both participated in creating. You don't want children." "I've never thought about wanting children," he corrected. "There's a difference. My life isn't exactly conducive to family planning. Which is why I'll understand if you want me to." I couldn't finish the sentence. His grip tightened. "I want you to do whatever you want to do. This is your body, your choice. I'll support whatever decision you make." "And if I want to keep it?" Something shifted in his eyes, fear and wonder warring for dominance. "Then we keep it, together. It won't be easy. Nothing about us has been easy." He pressed his forehead to mine. "Why should this be different?" I laughed despite the tears. "You're taking this remarkably well for someone who just found out his life is about to change completely." "I'm terrified," he admitted. "Absolutely terrified. But also..." He stopped, searching for words. "Also grateful that if I'm going to have a child, it's with you." Over the next few days, Arian went into full protective mode. The security detail doubled. My schedule was rearranged to minimize stress. He researched obstetricians with the same intensity he applied to business negotiations. "You're being excessive," I told him, as he presented a list of 15 different doctors. "I'm being thorough." He crossed off 3 names. "These 3 have connections to rival organizations. These 2 have malpractice settlements. These 4... Arian." I took the list from him. "Pick the best 3 based on actual medical credentials. I'll interview them and decide." "I want to be there for the interviews." "Of course you do." But I was smiling. His overprotectiveness was exhausting and endearing in equal measure. The pregnancy complicated work in ways I hadn't anticipated. Morning sickness hit hardest during morning meetings. Fatigue made long translation sessions difficult, and hiding the news from everyone at the office became its own challenge. Kavya figured it out first. "You're pregnant," she said flatly, cornering me in the break room. "What makes you think that?" "You've thrown up 3 times this week. You're drinking ginger tea instead of coffee. And Arian looks at you like you're made of glass." She crossed her arms. "How far along?" 6 weeks. I sagged against the counter. "We weren't planning this." "Does he know?" "Yes. He's handling it better than expected, actually. Arian will be a good father." She said it with surprising certainty. Overprotective and probably neurotic about safety, but good. "You sound sure." "I've worked for him for 8 years." She poured herself coffee. "I've seen him with his niece. He's capable of gentleness when it matters. The question is whether you're ready for what this means." "What does it mean?" "It means you're permanently tied to him now, not through business or attraction, but through a child. There's no walking away from that, Prisha. Not easily. I'd been thinking about that constantly." "I know. And you're okay with it?" Was I? 6 weeks ago, I'd been a translator navigating a complicated relationship with her former boss. Now I was carrying the child of one of the most dangerous men in the city, permanently linking my future to his. I'm terrified, I admitted, but also weirdly certain this is right. Does that make sense? Unfortunately, yes. She smiled slightly. Welcome to loving, complicated men. It's exhausting and worth it simultaneously. That evening, Arian and I went to the first prenatal appointment together. He held my hand through the ultrasound, his expression unreadable as the technician pointed out the tiny flutter that was our baby's heartbeat. Everything looks healthy, the doctor confirmed. Due date is approximately 8 months from now. Do you have any questions? Several hundred, Arian replied. Can we schedule a comprehensive appointment to discuss all potential complications, recommended specialists, and necessary lifestyle modifications? The doctor blinked. That's thorough. I'm very invested in ensuring the healthiest possible outcome. He means he's terrified and controlling, I translated. But yes, we'd like that appointment. Afterwards, sitting in his car in the parking lot, Arian was unusually quiet. Talk to me, I prompted. I keep thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. His hands gripped the steering wheel. All the enemies I have who would love to use this against me. All the danger I'm bringing into an innocent life. You're also bringing protection, resources, love. I covered his hand with mine. Our child will be safe, Arian. You'll make sure of it. What if I can't? The vulnerability in his voice cracked something in my chest. What if wanting to keep you both safe isn't enough? Then we'll figure it out together. I turned his face toward me. You don't have to carry this fear alone. That's what partnership means. He kissed me then, desperate and claiming, the kind of kiss that communicated things words couldn't. I love you, he said against my mouth. I should have said it before. I should have. You're saying it now. I kissed him back. That's enough. We sat there in the parking lot as the sun set, holding each other, processing the reality that our complicated arrangement had just become infinitely more complex and somehow more right. 9 months from now, there would be 3 of us instead of 2. The thought was terrifying and perfect. The attack came on a Tuesday, because apparently Tuesdays were determined to be significant in my relationship with Arian Shaw. I was leaving the office later than planned, my security detail flanking me as always. The pregnancy had just become visible, a small bump I tried to hide with strategic clothing choices. 15 weeks along, healthy baby, regular checkups that Arian attended like mandatory business meetings. The black SUV came out of nowhere. One moment I was walking toward the car. The next, Marcus was shoving me behind him, his gun drawn, shouting something I couldn't process through the adrenaline. 3 men emerged from the SUV. I recognized the tattoos, Volkov family, the same organization whose representative I'd insulted 3 years ago. Just the translator, one of them said in Russian, assuming I wouldn't understand. Quick and clean. Marcus fired first. The next 3 minutes were chaos. Gunfire and shouting and my own heartbeat thundering so loud I couldn't hear anything else. Marcus and the other security guards formed a barrier around me, returning fire while pushing me toward safety. I felt the bullet before I heard it. Not pain, exactly. More like pressure, sudden and wrong, in my left shoulder. I looked down to see blood spreading across my shirt, bright red against cream fabric. Prisha. Marcus caught me as my legs gave out. Stay with me. We're getting you out of here. The car. The hospital. Arian appearing like a storm. His face absolutely white as he saw the blood. His hands shaking as he touched my face, my shoulder. Everywhere except where the bullet had entered. The baby, I managed. Is the baby. We'll check everything. He kissed my forehead, my cheeks, my mouth. Just stay awake. Stay with me. Please, Prisha. Just stay with me. The bullet had missed anything vital. A a through and through that looked worse than it was. But the stress, the shock, the fear about the pregnancy consumed the next 6 hours. When the doctor finally confirmed that the baby was fine, that my wound would heal with minimal complication, Arian sagged against the wall like someone had cut his strings. "She can go home tomorrow," the doctor said. "Keep the wound clean, watch for infection, take it easy for the next few weeks." The baby showed no signs of distress. After he left, Arian sat beside my hospital bed, his hand holding mine with crushing intensity. "This is what I was afraid of," he said finally. "This exact scenario. You targeted because of me." "It was the Volkov family." I squeezed his hand. "Because I insulted them 3 years ago. This wasn't about us. It was about me not protecting you well enough." His voice was flat. "About my enemies seeing you as an acceptable target. Arian, I'm sending you away." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Somewhere safe. Somewhere my enemies can't find you or our child. You'll have security, resources, everything you need. But you can't stay here. Not anymore." The words hit like another bullet. "You're ending this. I'm protecting you. By abandoning me." I tried to sit up, my shoulder screaming in protest. "That's not protection. That's you running scared." "I'm terrified," he admitted. "Absolutely terrified that next time the bullet won't miss. That next time I'll lose you both because I was arrogant enough to think I could keep you safe while maintaining my empire." "So your solution is to remove me from your life completely?" "My solution is to ensure you survive." Finally, he looked at me, and the anguish in his eyes made my chest ache. "Even if it means losing you." "I don't accept that." "You don't have a choice." "I absolutely have a choice." I grabbed his hand with my good arm. "And I choose to stay. I choose this life with you. I choose the danger and the protection and the complicated mess we've built together. You were shot today. I was grazed. There's a difference. Next time could be worse. Next time might never happen." I pulled him closer. "Arian, you can't live your life preparing for worst-case scenarios. That's not living. That's just existing in fear. I've built my empire on preparing for worst-case scenarios. Your empire isn't a relationship." I touched his face, forcing him to look at me. "You're terrified. I understand that. But pushing me away won't protect me. It'll just make both of us miserable. You deserve better than this. I deserve what I choose for myself." My voice hardened. "And I choose you. This baby chooses you. So stop trying to make decisions for us based on your fear." He was quiet for a long moment, his hand coming up to cover mine against his face. "If I keep you here," he said finally, "I'll smother you with protection. Constant security, controlled movements, limited freedom. Is that really what you want?" "I want you to work with me instead of controlling me." I held his gaze. "I want security that protects without imprisoning. I want to be consulted about decisions that affect my life. I want partnership, Arian, not ownership. I don't know how to do that." "Then learn." I smiled slightly. "You learn to cook. You learn to run an empire. You can learn to share control with someone you love. You make it sound simple. It's not, but it's possible." I pulled him down until his forehead rested against mine. "Stay with me. Keep me safe. But don't lock me away. Trust me to navigate this world beside you instead of hiding me from it. I almost lost you today. But you didn't." I kissed him softly. "And tomorrow, we'll figure out better security, better protocols, better ways to protect without suffocating. Together." His arms came around me carefully, mindful of my injury. "I love you," he said against my hair. "More than I thought I was capable of loving anything." "I know. I held him as tightly as my shoulder would allow. And I love you, which is why I'm not letting you send me away to protect me from your fears. You're impossibly stubborn. You're impossibly controlling. I smiled. We're perfect for each other. The next morning, Arian had already implemented new security measures by the time I woke. Doubled guards, armored vehicles, complete restructuring of my daily routine. This is excessive, I observed as he detailed the changes. This is necessary. But he was watching for my reaction. Is it too much? Be honest. I thought about it. The armored car is smart. The extra guards are fine. But I need to still work, Arian. I need to maintain my independence. Remote work for now, while you heal. And after? We'll figure it out. He sat on the bed beside me. Together. Like you said. It wasn't perfect. The security was still excessive. His protectiveness still bordered on controlling. But he was trying. And that mattered. Over the next few months, we learned to navigate our new normal. The baby grew. My shoulder healed. Arian slowly, reluctantly learned to share decisions about our life, instead of making them unilaterally. The day our daughter was born, I watched this dangerous, controlled man cry as he held her for the first time. She's perfect, he whispered. Absolutely perfect. Just like her father. I smiled at his expression. What? You are. Perfectly complicated and perfectly mine. He kissed me carefully, mindful of our sleeping daughter. I'm going to be terrible at this. You're going to be overprotective and neurotic, I corrected, but also loving and present. She's lucky to have you. We're lucky to have you. His hand found mine. You could have walked away so many times. Could have chosen safety over this complicated mess. I chose love. I squeezed his fingers. Everything else is just details. And looking at our daughter, at the man who'd learned to share control for the sake of partnership, at the life we'd built from one stupid joke at a business dinner, I knew I'd made exactly the right choice. Tuesdays, it turned out, weren't so bad after all. The thing about loving a dangerous man is that danger doesn't take maternity leave. I learned this exactly 6 weeks after our daughter Anya was born, when Arian had to leave for an emergency meeting in Mumbai, and I found myself alone in the penthouse at 3 a.m. with a screaming infant and no idea what I was doing. Shh, baby girl, I whispered, pacing the nursery for the 100th time. Please, just tell me what you need. Anya's response was to cry harder, her tiny face scrunched in genuine distress that made my chest ache with helplessness. My phone buzzed. Arian, calling from whatever hotel he'd checked into 12 hours ago. How is she? His voice was tight with worry. Crying. Still. Always. I shifted Anya to my other shoulder. I've fed her, changed her, checked her temperature. I don't know what else to do. Put me on speaker. I did, holding the phone near Anya while Arian began singing softly in Hindi, one of his grandmother's lullabies that I'd heard him hum absent-mindedly, but never actually perform. Anya's crying stuttered, then stopped. Her dark eyes, so much like her father's, blinked in confusion at the phone. How did you... I started. My grandmother sang this to me every night until I was 5. His voice was rough with emotion. I never thought I'd use it for my own child. It's working. I sank into the rocking chair, exhausted. Keep going. He sang for another 10 minutes, his voice low and soothing, while Anya gradually relaxed against my chest. By the end, she was asleep, her breathing even and peaceful. Thank you, I whispered. I should be there. The frustration in his voice was palpable. Not on a phone call from 3,000 kilometers away. You're exactly where you need to be. I looked down at our sleeping daughter. The Mumbai deal is important. Not more important than you two. Important enough that you trust me to handle things here while you handle things there. I stood carefully, transferring Anya to her crib. That's what partnership means, remember? We don't both have to do everything. We trust each other to carry our share. Silence on his end, then. When did you become so wise? And somewhere between sleep deprivation and realizing our daughter has your stubbornness. I moved to the bedroom, sinking onto our bed with relief. How's the negotiation going? Rohan is handling most of it. I've been distracted. Arian. I know. He sighed. I promised to work on the controlling thing. Letting you handle home alone while I'm here is practice. How's that going? Terribly. I've checked the security feed 17 times tonight. I laughed despite my exhaustion. Only 17? You're improving. Don't mock my growth, Prisha. But I could hear the smile in his voice. I'll be back day after tomorrow. Can you survive until then? I've survived you for years. I can handle 2 days solo parenting. After we hung up, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, processing how much had changed in 6 weeks. The man who'd once tracked my phone without telling me now called from across the country to sing lullabies. The woman who'd been terrified of his world now navigated it with their daughter sleeping peacefully down the hall. We were learning. Slowly. Imperfectly. But learning. The next morning brought unexpected complications. Kavya appeared at the penthouse door at 9 a.m. with coffee and concern etched across her face. We have a problem, she said without preamble. I bounced Anya gently, trying to keep her content while processing whatever crisis had emerged. What kind of problem? The Sharma family is making moves. Arav contacted 3 of our key partners yesterday, suggesting that Arian's distraction with family matters makes him vulnerable. He's in Mumbai for business right now. I know, but the optics of him leaving for a week right after his daughter was born. She stopped herself. They're using it against him, suggesting his priorities have shifted. I felt anger flash hot in my chest. His priorities have expanded. That's different. I agree, but perception matters in this world. Kavya accepted Anya when I handed her over, her expression softening as our daughter grabbed her finger. We need to manage this carefully. What are you suggesting? A statement. Something that shows strength while acknowledging family. You and Anya making a brief appearance at the charity gala next week. She's 6 weeks old, which is why it would be powerful. It shows you're not hiding, that Arian's family isn't a weakness. It's an asset. I thought about what Arian would say. Probably no. Definitely no. He'd want us protected, hidden, kept separate from the dangerous game of perception and power. But I wasn't his possession to hide. I was his partner. And if our family was being used against him, I had a right to defend it. Set it up, I said, but minimal time. We make an appearance, show unity, and leave. Kavya's smile was approving. I'll coordinate with security. When I called Arian later to tell him, the silence on the other end was long and loaded. You want to take our 6-week-old daughter to a public event in a room full of my rivals, he said finally. I want to stop them from using our family as proof of your weakness. I kept my voice steady. This is what I can contribute while you're handling Mumbai. Let me handle this. Prisha, you promised not to control me. This is part of that. Trusting me to make decisions about protecting our family in ways that work for me. Another silence. Then, maximum security. You're in and out in 30 minutes. And if anything feels wrong, I'll leave immediately, I promise. I hate this. I know. But you also trust me, right? Completely. The admission sounded like it cost him, which is why I'm agreeing despite every instinct screaming at me to forbid it. Look at you, growing as a person. Don't make me regret this, Kumar. Wouldn't dream of it, Shah. The charity gala was exactly as overwhelming as I expected, and exactly as necessary. I wore a deep burgundy sari that Arian's mother had sent as a gift, traditional enough to honor heritage while elegant enough for the occasion. Anya was dressed in a tiny cream outfit, sleeping peacefully against my chest in a designer carrier. Kavya stayed at my elbow as we entered the ballroom, her presence both reassuring and strategic. This was theater, I reminded myself. Performance designed to send a message. Arav Sharma spotted us immediately, his expression shifting from surprise to calculation. Prisha, he approached with practiced charm. What a lovely surprise. I didn't expect to see you here. Why wouldn't I be here? I smiled with equal practice. This is a charity I support. Of course, and this must be the baby everyone's talking about. His gaze moved to Anya. She's beautiful. She is. I kept my voice pleasant but cool, though I'm surprised she's a topic of conversation. Everything about Aryan Shah is a topic of conversation. Arav's smile sharpened. Especially now that he's got new priorities. His priorities have always been clear. I met his gaze steadily. Family, business, and protecting both with equal intensity. Nothing about that has changed. Hasn't it? He's in Mumbai while you're here alone. He's in Mumbai conducting business while I'm here conducting my own affairs. I adjusted Anya's carrier slightly. We're capable of handling multiple responsibilities simultaneously. Perhaps that's difficult for some people to understand. The subtle jab landed. Arav's smile tightened. Of course, though one wonders how sustainable that balance is. People have wondered about Aryan's sustainability for years. I tilted my head. He continues to prove them wrong. I imagine that pattern will continue. Kavya touched my elbow, our signal that we'd been here long enough. If you'll excuse me, I said. Anya needs to be home. It was lovely seeing you, Arav. We made our exit smoothly. The entire appearance clocked at exactly 23 minutes. In the car, my hands started shaking with delayed adrenaline. You were perfect, Kavya said. Every word will be repeated to every important person in the room by tomorrow. I threatened a Mafia boss while holding my infant daughter. You defended your family while demonstrating strength. She squeezed my hand. There's a difference. When Aryan called 30 minutes later, I was already home, Anya fed and sleeping, my sari exchanged for comfortable clothes. Kavya told me everything, he said without greeting. Are you all right? I'm fine. We're fine. Arav was exactly as condescending as expected. What did you say to him? I repeated the conversation verbatim, my memory for dialogue sharpened by years of translation work. Aryan was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed, genuine, surprised laughter that I rarely heard. You told Arav Sharma that his understanding of multitasking was limited. I implied it. There's a difference. Prisha Kumar, you are absolutely terrifying. Prisha Shah, I corrected softly. We should probably make that official at some point. The silence that followed was weighted with everything we hadn't discussed yet. Marriage, permanence, the legal binding of what we'd already committed to emotionally. When I get back, he said finally, we're having that conversation. The marriage conversation. All the conversations. Everything we've been too busy or scared to address. His voice dropped lower. I want you legally mine, Prisha. Want our daughter to have parents who are married, not just together. Want Aryan. I stopped him gently. Come home first, then we'll talk. 2 more days. I'll be here. We both will. He returned exactly when promised, appearing in the penthouse doorway at 6 p.m. on Thursday, with exhaustion lining his face and hunger in his eyes. I was on the floor doing tummy time with Anya, both of us laughing at her attempts to lift her head. The domestic scene seemed to stop him in his tracks. Hi, I said simply. Hi. He set down his bag, loosened his tie, and joined us on the floor. I missed you both so much I physically ached. We missed you too. I passed him Anya, who immediately grabbed his finger with surprising strength. How was Mumbai? Successful, exhausting, completely irrelevant compared to being home. He kissed our daughter's forehead, then mine. Kavya showed me the security footage from the gala. You were incredible. I was terrified. You were strong. He studied me seriously. You handled Arav better than I could have. He respects you now. Or he's more determined to undermine us. Either way, he knows you're not a weakness he can exploit. Aryan shifted Anya to his shoulder with practiced ease. Which brings us to the conversation I mentioned. The marriage conversation, among others. He stood, offering me his hand. Come with me. I followed him to his study. Our study now, I supposed, since I'd gradually taken over half the desk space with my own work. He pulled out a small velvet box from his safe. I bought this 3 months ago, he said. Right after you told me you were pregnant. I've been waiting for the right moment to give it to you. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, a single diamond set in platinum with smaller stones along the band. It's beautiful, I breathed. It's a question. He took the ring out, holding it between us. Prisha Kumar, will you marry me? Not because of Anya, not because of business or optics or any practical reason, but because I love you beyond all rational thought and want to spend my life proving it. That's the most romantic proposal I've ever heard, I said, which admittedly isn't many, but still. Is that a yes? That's a yes. Obviously yes. How could it possibly be anything else? I held out my hand. Put the ring on before I start crying and wake the baby. He slid the ring onto my finger, then kissed me with the kind of intensity that reminded me exactly why I'd fallen for this dangerous, complicated, impossible man. Tomorrow we start planning, he murmured against my mouth. Tonight, we just celebrate. Celebrate how? We have a 6-week-old. His smile was wicked. I'm creative. You'd be surprised what we can accomplish during nap times. 2 months later, we married in a small ceremony at the same restaurant where everything had started. The Oberoy's private dining room, now transformed with flowers and family. My parents flew in from Delhi, shocked but supportive. Aryan's extended family filled half the room, all curious about the woman who'd somehow domesticated their dangerous relative. Anya slept through most of the ceremony in Kavya's arms, waking only for the exchange of rings to let out a cry that made everyone laugh. She's objecting, Rohan called out. Someone has concerns about this union. She's hungry, I corrected. Timing, baby girl. We discussed this. When Aryan and I were finally pronounced married, when he kissed me in front of everyone with possessive certainty, I felt the last piece of our complicated puzzle click into place. This was home. Not the penthouse or the security, or the dangerous world he navigated. This, him, our daughter, the family we'd built from one stupid joke, and months of figuring out how to love each other right. At the reception, Vihan raised his glass for a toast. To Prisha and Aryan, he said, who proved that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is tell the truth before you're ready. May your marriage be as surprising and perfect as your beginning. Here, here, everyone chorused. Later, after the guests had left and Anya was sleeping peacefully in her carrier, Aryan and I stood together looking out at the city that had witnessed our entire journey. Any regrets? He asked. About marrying a possessive mafia boss who tracked my phone and bought buildings to intimidate my fake boyfriend. I pretended to consider. None whatsoever. Good. His arms came around me from behind, hands splaying protectively over my still flat stomach. Because I'm not letting you go. Ever. I noticed. It's one of your more obvious qualities. I prefer to think of it as devoted. You would. But I leaned back against him, content in ways I'd never imagined possible. I love you, Aryan Shah. Your darkness, your light, your completely irrational possessiveness. All of it. I love you too, Prisha Shah. He pressed a kiss to my temple. Thank you for that stupid joke that changed everything. Thank you for being jealous enough to finally admit you wanted me. We stood there as the city lights sparkled below, our daughter sleeping peacefully nearby, our future stretching ahead with all its complications and possibilities. It wasn't perfect. Our world would never be completely safe. But it was ours, built on honesty, trust, and the willingness to keep choosing each other even when things got difficult. And somehow, that was more than enough.